In today's episode, we are going to talk about IRS letters, okay? If you've been listening to the podcast since the beginning, the middle, or just a few months ago, you know that I refer to these as love letters from the IRS. Now, the majority of people will see IRS letters and their stomach sinks to the floor, right? Their heart seems to stop. They get sweaty. It gives them the ick. But not opening up a letter from the IRS is how things go down quickly.
Welcome to the Tax Relief with Timalyn Bowens podcast. Are you behind on taxes? Is the IRS threatening you or your business? Are you overwhelmed and confused about how to resolve your tax issues? Let's join Timalyn as she explains your options and how she may be able to help. Timalyn Bowens is America's favorite EA.
Hey, family. Welcome to episode 90 of the Tax Relief with Timalyn Bowens podcast. I am overwhelmed with just disbelief and joy and all the things that you as a listener have decided to be with me through 90 episodes of different tax topics. And if you're new here, that's okay. Welcome. But when I started this podcast and it launched April 8th of 2022, I couldn't imagine the overwhelming amount of support that I've received, the messages, DMs, emails, even text from different listeners letting me know how this has helped them. So I want to start off by saying I really appreciate you as the listener for tuning in every other week, for subscribing, for sharing the podcast, and don't stop letting me know how this podcast has helped you, okay? Now, since episode 90 is such a monumental number, I want to stay true to the intent of this podcast. While, yes, we are going to be filling the tax literacy gap on this episode, I want to talk about actual tax relief and equip you to know how to handle letters or notices from the IRS. So, in today's episode, we are going to talk about IRS letters, okay? If you've been listening to the podcast since the beginning, the middle, or just a few months ago, you know that I refer to these as love letters from the IRS. Now, the majority of people will see IRS letters and their stomach sinks to the floor, right? Their heart seems to stop. They get sweaty. It gives them the ick. But not opening up a letter from the IRS is how things go down quickly. When we finish this episode, again, I want you to be equipped so that you don't feel the need to put your head in the sand if you're looking at a stack of IRS letters right now, or if you're anticipating a stack, okay? There is a way to get on top of this situation. So first things first, when you have an IRS letter, an IRS notice, I need you to get it out of the mailbox, sit where you're most comfortable in your home, take a deep breath, because back taxes don't have to ruin your life. Communication with the IRS doesn't have to ruin your life. Together we can get through this, okay? So you're going to take a deep breath, and I need you to actually open it, okay? Now, in the top left, you will see the IRS office that this letter, or the IRS office that the letter came from. In the top right, that's going to be very important as well, because you are going to look for a CP and then numbers after that. So we'll know if it's a computer generated notice, or you're going to look for an LTR, which is code for letter. One of those two is going to be in the top right corner. That's going to tell us what this notice is about and whether it was automated or not. Okay. Some common CP notices that go out are the CP 2000. This type of notice lets you know that something was turned into the IRS from a third party and there's a discrepancy between what was turned in and what you filed on the tax return. For example, let's say that you are a business owner and you received a 1099, but you forgot to report that on your tax return. Well, the IRS computer system is going to run what was turned into them from the different folks that gave you 1099s, you worked W-2, that as well. It's going to run that information against your 1040 where the information should have been reported. If they have something that's not on the return, you will get a CP 2000. Not the end of the world, but they're giving you the opportunity to say, hey, let me fix this. They will give you the opportunity to say, hey, I agree, I disagree, etc. Okay, and how to contact them. Now, in that situation, I do want to make you aware that if you didn't report something, it is in your best interest, especially if it's a significant amount, to correct the return because you don't want to get hit with the accuracy related penalty in addition to the additional tax from whatever you did not report. Now, because we're talking about IRS letters in this episode, I'll refer you to a previous episode that we'll have linked down below in the notes referring to the accuracy related penalty and give you more detail about that. But again, the CP 2000 is just an example of the type of notice or letter you may receive. So once you've identified the type of letter or notice this is, make sure that you actually read through the instructions thoroughly. Now, I pride myself in making an attempt to not speak in taxonese when I deal with taxpayers. The IRS has gotten a little bit better, but sometimes the letter or notice is still kind of in taxonese. So if you are having trouble understanding what they're asking for, you can reach out to the IRS via phone to get clarification. Now, if that just made you sick to your stomach even thinking about, there are different resources that are available for free on YouTube, on this podcast, where they review, or I should say we review different notices and tell you like what a CP14 is, what a CP504 is, and how you should respond, right? But if you want guidance that's customized to your situation and your ability to pay or respond, you're welcome to book a paid call with me at bowenstaxsolutions.com. Or if I'm not your cup of tea, I'm sure there are other tax professionals who likely also offer that as a service. When you book with me, there is a paid call that is specifically for IRS notice guidance. Okay. Now, with that, before you get stressed out, as you're reading the letter, you also want to compare what your tax records say. So you'll want to look at what was turned into you. If this was the instance of the CP 2000 and they're saying something is missing, you'll see what was turned into you from employers or people that you did contracting with. You'll also want to take a look at your tax return. Did you actually miss it? You may also want to go ahead and create an account at irs.gov. They now use the ID.me system, but you can pull your IRS wage and income transcripts because maybe the IRS missed something else that you missed. So if you're going to make a correction to the return, you want to make sure that you get it all right on the first correction, right? So as you're going through and doing this, you would determine if you agree with what the IRS has found. And if you do, you'll want to make sure that you pay any money that is in addition to what you may have already owed or paid to get that fixed, right? If you disagree, there will be specific instructions within the letter that tell you how to dispute it. Okay. Now, the really big thing that I want you to be on the lookout for, though, is for scammers. All right. There are people who take advantage of the fact that folks are scared to death of speaking with the IRS. So, identity thieves, they look for the elderly, but they will scam anyone. So, if you receive something, air quotes, from the IRS that's via email, that's via text, or social media, make sure that you do not click on any links. This is a common phishing scam, and that's phishing, phishing. They can get into your computer, your cell phone, or whatever device you're on if you click on that link. And you don't want to give these people access to your email where they could potentially access your banking or anything else dealing with like retirement accounts, etc., right? You also want to make sure that if somebody calls you, that you don't automatically give them information. The IRS first step of communication with you is going to be a letter or notice. All right. Now, with advances in technology, you can opt to receive any letters and notices from the IRS. So again, you would have to have an account at irs.gov using the ID.me system to create that account, but then you would be able to log in to see if this letter or notice was on file. Now, the online system is amazing when it works, terrible when it doesn't. Just because it's not there yet doesn't always mean that the notice you received in the mail is incorrect. So you can contact the IRS customer service to authenticate the letter. Okay. Now, the IRS does also use private collection agencies if you are at the point where you've received CP-14s, which are notice demand for payments. If you've received CP-504s, which is a notice of intent to levy, they may have referred your case out to a private collection agency, and you'll want to make sure that you actually verify that that is a legit organization, and you would have already received the notice CP-40, which lets you know, hey, we're referring this to a private agency. Okay. For the most part, the IRS has ended any unannounced visits. So the likelihood of them showing up at your house or place of business is pretty slim. However, it could still happen. If someone shows up, you will want information to verify that they actually work for the Internal Revenue Service through the Treasury Department, but you can always call to verify them, right? But again, most unannounced visits have been put to bed just to protect you from being scammed and to protect the IRS employees and keep everyone safe. Okay. Now, keep in mind that phone calls, the IRS is not going to call and threaten you. The IRS is not going to ask you to put money on Green Dot or Visa cards, right? Now, a private collection agency, they may call you, but again, they'll be able to give you all of the information about your account, the balance due. So you would be able to also pull up the information on the IRS.gov account and verify what they're saying to you. Okay. So those are just some things to keep in mind, and warning that the IRS does communicate via mail with the IRS letters and notices, but you do need to be aware and protect yourself from fraud. Okay. So if you have received an IRS notice or letter, we want to make sure that we get that opened. You take the deep breath, because there is a way to get through this. All right. If you agree with the notice or letter, you're going to take any of the requested action that they've put. All right. If they have not asked you to reply, you don't have to reply. If you disagree with what the notice says, they will always provide you with instructions on what to do to either appeal the decision they're proposing. So, for example, the intent to issue a tax lien or to levy you, or if it is a balance due, they will give you instructions on how to disagree and dispute that. Okay. Now, to guarantee your appeal rights have a collection due process hearing, you have to respond within 30 days. That's why, again, it's very important that you take a deep breath and get this open so we can preserve your rights as a taxpayer when going up against the IRS. All right. So, this episode, again, was to equip you, but I'm not expecting you to be a tax expert. If you agree with the balance due, but you don't have the funds to pay today, and maybe you need an additional 36 months, maybe you need 72, maybe there's no way that you could make a payment right now and be able to afford your mortgage or be able to afford to purchase groceries this month. I want to invite you to book a call with me at www.bowenstaxsolutions.com. Now, like I said before, a call that's customized to your situation is going to be a paid call. So those are paid calls on the website. However, there are free resources on this podcast, episode 10 with installment agreements, episode with how to temporary delay IRS collections. There are those types of things available to you, right? But if you want to stop the IRS from levying your account, if you want the IRS to actually hear your side of the story and give you more time to set up a payment arrangement or to remove certain penalties, then you need to do your part and book the call and let somebody stand in the gap and be your advocate, which I'd love to do. So again, you can book that call at bowenstaxsolutions.com, because back taxes shouldn't ruin your life. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen today. I'd like to thank Jim Ray Consulting Services for helping me get this message out to you. I hope you found the information helpful. Did you know 1 in 50 people have a tax problem? Please share this episode with your friends and family, because you never know who may need help. Again, thanks for listening. Hey, just as a reminder, this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It provides a framework and possible solutions for solving your tax problems, but it is not legally binding. Please consult your tax professional regarding your specific tax situation.